business in just 2 years. That is Larry Boykins. Let's bring him on the stage.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on your show once again.
Man, Larry, how you doing today, bro?
I'm doing great. Brother. I was under the weather for a few days, but I'm on the other end now, so I'm feeling much better now.
Man, good. I know when we did the radio show, man, I was also under the weather. When I listened to the recording of it, I was like, man, I could hear myself talking through my nose. That sounded horrible, but yeah, I'm glad you're doing better. I'm doing better. So, Larry, man,
Yeah.
when I looked up the definition of serial entrepreneur, and after our brief conversation that we had on for the show on Saturday, I was like, yeah, this just got lined the title up, because I had actually titled the show that before I actually did the research on what a serial entrepreneur is. And then I was like, dang, that fit him perfectly. Perfectly. So, man, for our people who are watching tonight, and those of your friends and family that may be joining via Facebook or YouTube, tell us who Larry Boykins is. Give us a little rundown of that corporate career, and then we're going to get into the entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent a number of years in corporate America. My finance background, kind of rose me through the ranks. I started off as a financial analyst for a large food service company based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So worked my way through the ranks, became the director of finance. Also, I have an MBA in finance as well. So, that was a plus, actually working in the field that I went to school for. So rose through the ranks. Everything was great. Life was great. Got relocated to Atlanta, Georgia, January 2020. And then obviously the pandemic hit, and 6 months later, I was without a job. So going from, a nice cushy corporate job, white collar job, making, $2,000 a week, to collecting $300 a week in unemployment benefits, just like that. Single parent, I got 3 children at the time. My teenage daughter was living with me. So, took a huge pay cut. My expenses stayed the same. So I had to figure it out. So, I was faced with the uncertainty, how, I'm gonna pay my bills, how would I put food on the table? So also, just to give you a little background, prior to my finance career, I was in facilities. I worked in facilities as a facility supervisor at a college campus in New York. So when I lost my job and I knew I had to figure out something fast, I leaned up to that knowledge, right, in my prior life. So I started a cleaning company. Started that with $700, and obviously, and also, if I can just put a disclaimer, like you see these guys on social media, Instagram, they'll tell you, click the link in my bio. I call them click the link in my bio guys. If you want to make $1 million in 30 days, click the link on my bio, and they try to sell you a $5,000 workshop or something. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just so passionate about my journey and my story. So, I just want to put it out there. Hopefully it'll motivate and inspire some. I get calls all the time from folks on my social media pages, folks from California, folks from New York, saying that they're inspired by my journey and they're following my blueprint. So what I can tell you is, if you follow my blueprint, I promise that, you'll have similar success, if not greater. So I'm super, super excited to be here.
Man, that's awesome. So Larry, I want to do this, man. Let me back up, because you connected one of the dots for me, right? Because I know that we talked about that you were in finance with the food supplier or food distributor or whatever, and then but then when you lost your job, you started the janitorial business. Yeah. And so I was trying to connect finance with janitorial business, right? But now you kind of brought that together, because you worked in a facility prior to that.
Yeah.
So what's so amazing about that to me is God doesn't waste any experience. right? And so you had that to draw back on to then start your business with $700.
$700. So the $700, half of that went to a website. The LLC was about $100, so that's around 450. And then business cards, some flyers, things like that. So that's the $700.
That was
So yeah, so that's the $700. So now I have an online digital presence, right, with my website, things like that. And then I registered on a platform called Thumbtack Pro. And there's a number of other different lead platforms out there like Home Advisor, Angie's List, where a company can register on there and then they'll send leads your way and they'll sell you the leads, right? So that's exactly what I did. Went on Thumbtack Pro, registered my company. From there, I started with residential cleaning. At first, I tried to jump straight to commercial cleaning. I tried to go straight to the juggler, but I wasn't getting any traction, any leads from commercial clients. So I was doing residential cleaning. I did about 10 homes and then got 10 reviews. And then I went to commercial cleaning, and then voila, boom. That's when commercial clients start coming my way. So I don't know if that's the sweet spot, but if you have a cleaning company, register on Thumbtack Pro, get you at least 10 5-star reviews, and then go after the commercial cleaning clients. And that's what I did. And then that's when they start coming my way. The budget, the nice thing about Thumbtack, you can set your budget on there for whatever, is comfortable for you. For me, I put like $200 on there. And then they'll send you leads they'll charge you leads based on the value of the job. So for example, my first commercial client was a restaurant client, and the contract was worth $50,000 over 1 year. $50,000. It was 3 cleanings a week, and it was $50,000 a year. And they charged me about $125 for the lead, a one-time fee. So that's not a bad investment.
That's not a bad investment.
$125. Yeah,
That's not a bad investment at all, man. What I love about what you're doing too is you're actually giving some step by step for people, because oftentimes people come in and like you said, they talk about in general what they did, but you're really giving us some detail, and I love that you're doing that, and I think about I thought about a lot, even after the interview. You moved to Atlanta. You're there 6 months. You have your daughter living with you. I mean, that could be, that situation could break a lot of people, right? Because I've gone from $200 down to $300 in unemployment benefits, and I got to look up and say what I got to do. I got to come home and look my daughter in the eye every day and say, okay, how she's expecting. I mean, she's got her standard of living. I mean, she's with dad or what have you. And so, man, that's pretty awesome, man. So hats off to all the working single fathers out there, as well as the mothers. So, man, tell me, like, you did the Thumbtack. I wrote it down, right?
Yeah, it's all good.
So you did the Thumbtack and you started to do some commercial. So when you were doing those 10 houses, because another thing that you don't see a lot of, at least I haven't seen in my lifetime, you don't see a lot of residential house cleaning men. Most of the time, they're ladies. Mm-hmm. So when you're doing residential, you're kind of in that world that's really dominated by ladies, because the reality is ladies generally clean better than fellas. I mean, I'm sorry, guys, that's the truth, right? But so tell me a little bit, because I'm wondering, like, what's going through your mind, man? Even from an ego standpoint. I mean, I'm just trying to keep it real, right?
Yeah.
You were in a job that you probably wore a suit, sport coat every day. You're getting $2,000, and now you're rolling up your sleeves, going in somebody's house, cleaning their toilet.
Yeah. To be honest, it was like I saw 10 years like flash right before my eyes, right? Because it brought me back from a time when I was, a facility supervisor in New York, and my crew is cleaning toilets and things like that. And for me to go to business school and get an MBA and work my way up the corporate ladder to go, I don't want to say back down to like where I started from, but in a sense I did. So, it took me a moment. It was a very, very humbling experience. Let's put it that way. But once I got to, the commercial clients, right? My first commercial client was a $50,000 contract. 2 weeks later, I got another commercial cleaning contract. This client had Airbnbs. So they had 13 Airbnbs in Atlanta. Actually, it was in Buckhead. And that contract was valued at about 70,000. So now I got 50,000 plus 70,000. That's $120,000, business. So that kind of made me feel a little bit, more whole, if you will. But at first, it was a very, very humbling experience. But once I was able to get some of those high dollar contracts under my belt, I felt like I was whole again. But it was a very humbling experience, if you will. But now, I have 8 employees and 6 of them are women. so absolutely.
I got you. So man, and so what I'm saying is I'm taking this prior experience,
Yeah.
of a facility supervisor, and now you put the finance degrees, right? Masters, MBA, all that into running your own business.
Yeah.
And now it's almost like you take those two worlds, you merge them together, and what you were doing for the corporate employer, you're now doing for yourself. The same talent and education and all those things that you did for them, you're now doing it for your own enterprise.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the skills that I learned in corporate America and, in business school, they were transferable, right? I knew to keep my labor below 40%. Supplies, I try to keep that around 10%, things like that. So absolutely, those skills really, really helped me, scale my business in a fairly fast rate, if you will. So, even to this day, I try to keep my labor below 40%. Even when I'm bidding out on jobs, I always factor in labor 40%. And I always try to start at 20% profit margin, right? Because
Gotcha.
if you can't make 20%, I mean, you might as well just dump your money in the stock market, right? And just, with compounded interest and things like that. So that's my threshold is 20. And then I go from there. Obviously it could be greater than 20%, but I try to start at 20%. If anything less than 20% just is not a good business decision for me. So yeah, a lot
Well,
of the
but that
teaching.
makes sense, man. Because, I always say this is if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So a 20% profit margin, and there's and I what I like about that is you go in with the end goal in mind. Stephen Covey says start with the end in mind, right? And the 7 habits of effective people. But here's the thing is that it's not like you said, I'm going to make an 80% profit or something unrealistic, but it's got to be at least at that 20% threshold profit wise.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, um, so as you're doing this, and one of the things that we talked about, was how multiple businesses, and one of the things that you mentioned on the radio show was about these businesses being related. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing I try to do in any business is create value and what's called a value proposition, right? You want to make your company, your business so attractive to clients, right? That, it's really hard for them to go to another company. So For example, for the cleaning business, when I had my Airbnb client, they had 13 Airbnbs in Atlanta, and I already had an Airbnb in Charlotte. So then I go, I can have an Airbnb here in Atlanta too. How about, I'll start some Airbnbs here in Atlanta. I got the cleaning company, so I'm already set up and ready to go. So I can, use my cleaning company as a client of mine, as a customer of mine as well. So the Airbnb and the cleaning company is related. And then I noticed that the guests that were being dropped off at the Airbnbs, they were being dropped off via Ubers, Lyft, taxis, things like that. So I'm like, how about, I start my own like shuttle service, if you will, and I can like partner with my commercial client and pick up their guests from the airport and bring them to the Airbnbs. So that's how I set
Yeah. Nah.
Back up.
I want all the money. I want it all.
Larry ain't leaving no coins on the table.
Let me tell you something. So in business school, there's a thing that's called vertical integration. If you don't know it, look it up, right? And that's pretty much where, like, for example, Netflix is their whole business model was based on licensing, right? Buying the rights and licenses from the movie studios, right? So they can show their movies on their platform, on Netflix platform. Now Netflix is shifting to showing their own movies. So now they're into the movie industry. They're making their own movies and docuseries and things like that. So they're controlling the content, they're controlling the quality, everything. So that's pretty much vertical integration. So that's what I try to do with the cleaning company, and then branch off to Airbnb, which I can still utilize those resources from the cleaning company. And then the transportation company, I can utilize that resource for my Airbnb guests. And then the event planning piece, where I have an event center, I know clients have to be dropped off at the venue with their party or whatever. So now I have my own party bus. They can use my transportation business as well. So it's like, I'm not leaving any coins left on the table. So I'm not leaving.
So here it is. So I fly into Atlanta. Culture transportation picks me up. Your company picks me up, takes me to an Airbnb that you own, that your company cleans. That transportation company then picks me up, takes me to an event that's held at the event center you own.
Bingo.
And then reverse it back.
Now rinse and repeat.
Is the food we also getting catering too? We got food too. We getting food.
Not yet. I don't know a thing about cooking. So.
Hey, look.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
But I think that's dope, man. That is really that's really brilliant to take and to take what you learned intellectually through the class book. Because sometimes what happens is that we study things, but we never bring those things that we study into application. So you're taking the book knowledge, taking it into application, and now you linking all these things together. And like I said, I saw on I think it was Facebook, because I'm not sure we hooked it on Instagram yet or not. But I saw how you took the Sprinter and you converted it over, and I'm like, shoot, man. I think it was one of your relatives said, are you gonna pick me and Mama up in that at the airport? I'm like, shoot, I want him to pick me up in that at the airport. Right? So that's pretty good. And so tell us a little bit about, because you dropped something else in on us. You dropped in the event center. So tell us a little bit about the event center.
Yeah, so I have an event center in Metro Atlanta. It's about 4,500 square feet. It holds about 250 people. I started that about 5 months ago. And, within 5 months, I already booked, 52 events, right? I'm already at about 80K within 5 months. So if you do the math, that's on average about 15,000 a month, right? So that adds another, 200 grand a year, to my portfolio, right? So I rent it out for baby showers, weddings, birthday parties. I even got a commercial client who rents it out every other Wednesday for team meetings, right? During the week, right? 6:30 in the morning. So talk about passive income. I'm in the bed, sleeping still, and I got a client that's at my venue, right? Utilizing, my space, and I'm earning money literally in my sleep. So it's,
So, is this a commercial client that you're also doing commercial cleaning for?
I'm not actually.
Okay. I'm like, okay, now we're ready.
I'm getting there though.
Well, and then the other thing too is, of course, when you have a event venue, that's got to be clean.
Absolutely. So
serviced as well. So
absolutely.
where is the venue?
It's in Marietta, Georgia. It's right off of 75. It's a good 25-minute ride from downtown Atlanta, 25-30 minute, obviously depending on traffic from downtown Atlanta. So it's in a prime location, right? So, it's in East Cobb County, which is a very, affluent community, so, I'm able to charge a premium because of, the area. Household income there is around 65,000. So, it's a prime location. Also another tip, when you're looking for commercial space, right? I try to look for, big box companies like the Home Depots, Walmarts, things like that, because they do a whole analysis when they're looking for property. They're doing a whole analysis, right? They want, average, household income, per capita, all of these things.
Growth rate, all this infrastructure,
exactly.
all that.
Yeah, so I let them do all of the heavy lifting, right? So when I'm looking for a spot, I'm looking for, a Chick-fil-A, a Home Depot, things like that, and then it's all golden from there. So
and you're just finding you a spot nearby.
Exactly.
So do y'all understand why a serial entrepreneur kind of fits this dude tonight, right? With blank on us.
I lost you.
All right, there we go.
Little technical difficulties.
Sorry about that. I was getting a call coming through.
Oh, okay.
Somebody trying to get a ride. Somebody trying to get a ride in.
Trying to book the culture, right?
Right. So, man, that's pretty dope. And so, how I know you lived in Charlotte, but where are you originally from? New York, if I remember correctly. Was it Rochester?
Yeah, upstate New York. Yeah, Rochester, New York. It's the home of Kodak, Xerox, Bosch Alarm. Born and raised there. I moved from there about 7.5 years ago. In 2015, I moved away. Moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, stayed there for about 4 years. And now I've been in Atlanta going on 3 years.
Okay.
Yep.
So you moved to Charlotte really probably about a year after I did then, because we moved here in 2014. So
yeah. I moved in January of 2016.
Gotcha. So man, for someone who's watching that I think truly they are inspired tonight, right? Because I'm inspired by your story and all that you're doing and how you're lining things up. What would you tell someone who's watching tonight that has a dream, a goal? They want to be an entrepreneur. What give us a few steps that you would tell them, do this, then do this. Give us a couple of those. The first couple of steps on the blueprint, on Larry Boykins' blueprint. I'm giving you this Boykins blueprint to business. Okay, I like that. That sounds like a book, brother. Boykins blueprint to business.
Yeah.
Give us a couple of those steps in the blueprint to business.
Yeah. The first thing, I mean, if you have an idea, right, you want to make sure it's feasible, right? And then, also, like I said about my threshold is 20%. Is it going to be, bring you in a 20% profit margin? If so, move to the next step, right? Then I try to look for low barriers to entry, something that's going to be low startup costs, is not really difficult to enter into that industry. You're not going to, need a whole lot of, permits or, regulations, things like that. So, like for me, it was the commercial cleaning company. It only, cost me $700 to start. So it was very low startup cost, very low risk. And the profit margin was there, right? So, now you're there, and then you want to just try to create value, look for value, proposition opportunities out there. For example, my cleaning company, I have a Montessori school client, and they have 3 schools in Atlanta area, and I do the cleaning service for all 3. And I offer other services as well. Like I created a handyman position for my son at the time, right? So now that's another stream of income. And then I created a lawn service, so I take care of the lawn for the client as well. This past weekend they had a huge flood with their sprinkler systems being activated. We did flood cleanup. So that's around 3 to 4 different revenue streams in that one business. And then, you make yourself so attractive to the client that it's really hard for them to replace you. It's hard for another company to come behind you and offer all of these different services. So, that's what I would tell your listeners. Try to create value, put yourself in the client's shoes. How can you add some value to them, and how you're going to be able to give them a really, really good experience. I mean, that right there goes a long way. Also, for the entrepreneurs out there that is looking to start a cleaning company like myself, one of the things I look for is national clients, right? Because that right there is where the gold is. You get a national client, they have footprint all over the country, right? So, they have multiple locations all over the country. They have the budget, right? And they have the stability. So if you can get a national client, I mean, you're really doing well. I mean, you will really, really, really do well. So, look for a national client, and look for ways to add some value. And that's what I would tell your listeners out there.
Well, I love that, because in my 25 years of doing financial services, particularly on the insurance side of that, we would always say the more lines of insurance you have with a client, the more likely they're going to stay with you, right? So if I have a client and I have their auto insurance, I have their homeowners insurance, have their life. Why do you think State Farm, Allstate, AAA, all these companies have all these different insurance? Now, most of them, their bread and butter is on the auto side, maybe the homeowner side.
Yeah.
But you take a State Farm or Allstate or AAA, they also offer life insurance. They offer these other things that's not their profit margin, but it's an added value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you basically said the same thing. It's like, if I do the lawn, if I provide the handyman services, if I also do the regular commercial cleaning, now I have 3 lines of business with that one vendor or that one client.
Yeah.
And I can do that cheaper than if they were to go out and hire each of those things individually.
Right. Exactly.
So they're like, man, we can't get rid of culture, right? We gotta keep culture going. So what by the way, I know culture transportation, culture events, I believe, right?
Yes.
And what about the janitorial business? What's the name of it?
Hygienic Cleaning Services, LLC.
Hygienic Cleaning Services.
Yeah.
So Larry, So have multiple streams of income, and vertical integration was one of your tips, right?
Yeah.
And then looking for larger clients, that may have footprints in multiple locations, and giving value. All these types of things are things that can help sustain and scale your business.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, if you have a family, if you have children, the nice thing about, your business, you can employ your children, and tax free, up to $12,000 up until the age of 22. So you could put your children on the payroll and it's completely tax free. So,
Right, because as long as they're making less than 12,000 a year, which is